Now we are going to learn how to create custom WordPress REST API custom endpoints, which from now on we are just going to be calling custom endpoints, well, for obvious reasons. Anyway, you probably watched this video and you want to learn how to make your next application a little bit better. If you didn't watch it, which would really surprise me, and you came here just to learn about those custom endpoints, well, you're also in the right spot, and welcome to the channel. I will not question the reasons why you're here. Anyway, I want to make this video as short as possible, so I'm just going to stop rambling right now. So why would you want to create your custom endpoint? Well, one reason should probably be that the out-of-the-box endpoints that come with WordPress are just huge, right? So this is just one post. Most of the time, and I don't know what you're doing, so maybe you need all of this information, but most of the time you won't be needing all of this. You may need ID, title, content, whatever, depending on what you're doing. But as I said, most of the time you won't need this. All of this. The another problem is, for example, featured media. So featured media doesn't just give you the URLs of the media or images, but it actually gives you just the ID. So if you go to that ID, you go media 18, you are greeted with another huge endpoint when all you need is maybe just this, right? So all of this to get just this. So WordPress included methods for you to create your custom endpoints and to get only the data that you need in them. So we are going to learn how to do that in this video. I'm going to go to my plugins directory and actually create a plugin for our REST API. So we are going to do directory, watch learn API. You should always namespace your plugins, okay? And then in it you would create another directory, actually not a directory but a file, which is also going to be called WL API and then PHP, right? So this is going to be our API, just one file. So in it, you would just first define your plugin, and as you can see, this is super easy. Those are just some comments, so you add them in it, and then you would do add action, and then REST API in it, and function. Okay, so this is how we initialize our REST API. So what you would do, register REST route, and I'm going to do something like WLV1. So this means this is going to be the start of our route. As you can see right here, if we check out the WordPress's route, it starts with WP, so it's namespaced like WP v2, and for us it's going to be namespaced WL v1, and then the name of your route. So first of all, we want to display the posts. So I'm just going to do posts, and you open up an array right here, close this out, and then you define the methods that you want that endpoint to use. In our case, we are just going to define the get method and the callback. So this one is important. So the callback should be the name of the function that is actually going to display some data, right? So for us, let's call this callback WL posts. And this is actually just a function which we are going to define right now. So we now defined our route. Next thing we need to do, we need to define that WL posts function. So do function. Yeah, I really hate this keyboard. Okay, so WP posts, and then let's just return something. So return. So you can return whatever you want, right? So if we go to this route, we will get just this message. Okay, but this of course won't work immediately, because first of all you need to go to your WordPress dashboard. You go to plugins, and as you can see, we got this custom API plugin, crushing it. Activate it, and then if we go to WL V1 posts, we get our awesome endpoint. So now we have our endpoint, and then we can do whatever we want in this function and display whatever data we need. So first of all, we want to define some arguments in our function. Now, I gotta warn you, well, not warn you, just tell you. So what we are doing right now has nothing to do with the actual endpoints. It's nothing specific to them. All the commands and functions that we are going to be using are just normal WordPress's functions, right? You can use them in the themes, in templates, whatever you want, right? So we are using them right here in our plugin. So we are just going to define some arguments, which is going to be the number of posts and post type. And then we want to use the getPosts function to access those posts. So we are going to access this number of posts, and we want to display only the post type. Of course, you can do something like page right here, or if you have a custom post type, maybe products, you would do products, right? So posts. Next thing we want to do is we want to define a variable, actually not a variable, but an array that is actually going to be the data that is going to be displayed on our custom endpoint. So you do that by doing data and just initializing an empty array. Then we want to do I equals 0. This probably can be done better and more elegantly, but I leave that to you. And then you would do something like this. So I'm just going to copy this in because I don't want to write all of it. So what we are doing right now, we are going through this list of posts that we got from these arguments, and then we are setting up our array. So first of all, we are defining this I in here, and then we want our post to display an ID. Then we are accessing the title by calling the post title. Then we are accessing the content by calling the post content. And then we are accessing the slug by calling the post name. For some reason, I don't know why the slug is called post name in WordPress. And then we are creating another array inside of an array, which is going to be called featured image. And then we are getting all the sizes of our image, so thumbnail, medium, and large. As I said before, this get the post thumbnail URL has nothing to do with WordPress's API. This is just a normal WordPress function which is going to get the URL of the image of size thumbnail for this specific post, which has an ID of something, right? So you would use those functions, and then you would just return that data. So as you can see, this is a very flexible, and if you know a little bit of PHP, you can make your endpoints look however you like. So let's just save this and check this out. Right, so as you can see, much smaller. So these are 10 posts which look like this compared to 10 posts that look like this, right? So we're getting much more information here than here. So we are just displaying ID, title, content, slug, featured image, and so on. So as you can see, you can get whatever data you want and display it right here, or remove all the data that you actually don't want that you get from these default endpoints. So what I want to do now, if you go to the default endpoint and you want to access the post with the ID of 1, you would just do posts 1 and you would get that post, or maybe post 8, you would get that post. What we want to do right here is not accessing the posts by ID, but actually we want to access them by the slug. Let's create another REST route. And I'm just going to copy it in. So WLV1, and then you do posts, and then you do this regex string which is actually accepting this slug right here. So you got this slug, and then also the method is going to be get, and the callback is going to be WL post, which is going to be our function. And it's actually going to receive that slug. So to access the slug, what you need to do is you need to do something like return. So just to see it, right? Return, and then you would do slug. So this would return your slug. Now that you have that slug, then you can do whatever you want in WordPress, right? So if we save this and go to our browser, we can go to posts, and then do something like test, right? And then you would get test, or if you do hello world, you would get hello world. Now you can use that slug to define which post you want to display, and you would do something like this. So also I'm just going to copy this in because this is very similar to what we did with the posts, except we are not using a for each loop right here. Because we just want to display one post, but what you're doing is defining arguments, and you want to get the post with the name, right? Post name, for some reason not slug, with the name of slug, and the post type is going to be post, and you also get the get posts with some arguments, and hopefully from this you get just one post. And I think you should, because as far as I know, WordPress will add numbers to the end of the slugs that are repeating. So if you have slug of hello world and create another post with the hello world title, the slug would be hello world -2. So you should always get one post right here. So that's why we are accessing it via this 0. So this will get us the first post in an array, because this is actually an array, right? So we are getting the post array, and getting the first post in that array should give us the post that we are looking for. So you go right here, and now if we refresh this page, because we have a post with the slug of hello world, and that's the first post, this should work, right? And also I have a post with a slug of test, so it's going to display the post with the ID of 8. As you can see, the slug is test, so this works. So now I am anticipating that some of you will of course ask how to get custom fields in here. So you would do something like get field, right? If you're using ACF, then you do the name of the field. So I just copy this from the documentation, name of field, and then you would do that post ID. And this way you would get the field that you're looking for, right? So you can do that that way. Okay, so this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I think this is a good starting point for creating your custom endpoints in WordPress. All you need from this point on is just, you know, knowledge of PHP and WordPress's functions. And then you can create whatever kind of custom endpoints that you like. Remember, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub, although in this case this is just going to be a GitHub gist. I'm not going to create a repository for it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.